We are therapists at Speak, Learn, and Play. I am the speech therapist, and Amy is a mental health professional. Our clinic is located in Brooklyn, for those of you who do not know us or haven't been with us before. Yeah. So, yes, the holidays, know, we all love and love to hate them, right? And I think the holidays hits a little differently when you're a parent, for sure. And then it definitely, if you're parenting a neurodivergent child, the holidays, while they can be great, also present some challenges. And, it's really about what can we do to make this both easier for us as parents, but also successful for your child. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about how to manage the holiday stress just from a speech and language and a communication point of view. And then Amy is going to talk about how to manage that from a mental health point of view. So, in terms of communication and speech, what I recommend to my parents is just prepping all the time. Prep, 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 right? Especially if you have tradition, what this is going to be like for you, but for your child, they may not know. So, I prep as if it's brand new. So, some of the things that I like to do, and this really also helps executive functioning, is really doing that same and different. Okay, so we're going to grandma's for Hanukkah or for Christmas. And now, normally, what's the same is that we're going to go to her house and we're going to sit in the dining room. But here's what's going to be different. Uncle so and so is going to be there. You may have a cousin, and sort of explain what the differences are so that there's an expectation and understanding that there's going to be some flexibility that, yes, we're going to a familiar place, but there are going to be things that are different. I love showing pictures if that's a possibility of relatives that you may not see all the time. Well, this is mommy's sister, or this is grandma's cousin. We only see them on holidays, but here's a picture so you know what they look like. And then if you're going someplace completely different that you've never been before, if there are any ways to get pictures of that, right? That house, that restaurant, if you're traveling, what the hotel will look like. I think that just prepping and giving visuals is a great way to tone down the anxiety about things being out of routine. And it's also a great way to talk about things and a way to have your child talk to you, and just another communication opportunity. Another thing that you can do to prep is social stories. It's pretty common. Sometimes you can find templates, but basically kind of outlining what it's going to look like. So we are going to go on an airplane to go visit your cousin. We are going to go on the airplane. There's going to be a line, and sort of outlining that whole process or a part of the trip that you think might be challenging. Typically, it's, getting through the airport rigmarole. Waiting is really hard. The holiday lines are crazy. It's loud. It's overstimulating. So sometimes having a social story for what exactly is going to happen and what they might experience can really help manage that in the time. And also, like, boredom busters. My kids are unfortunately the only kids in the family right now. So at adult gatherings, they tend to get really bored. They get hungry, and they just want attention. So making sure to have what we call boredom busters, things that that they can do for a period of time that's going to help keep them calm, will help regulate them. So I think that's the part of the prep. I think also when everyone has a week off, we sort of fill that time, right? It's a time to see friends that we haven't seen, or it's the time to go explore new things in the city. And sometimes we forget that our kids need downtime too. So making sure that you're scheduling breaks, having a pajama day. I mean, I know, again, for my kids who are not neurodivergent, but even they get overstimulated, right? And we tend to schedule like just one day of doing nothing to help them recover after a lot of stimulation. My husband and I both notice they sleep more. They sort of just need some time to decompress, just like adults do. And that's also a great time to watch some holiday movies, and you can communicate and talk about things that are going on, show picture of what you've done, and kind of talk about the experience, right? And help answer any questions that they may have. And I think Amy will talk a lot about this, but using that time to connect to your kids to help take the temperature down and kind of keep a steady, calm environment, right? And making sure that we're just not overbooked. Again, Amy will talk a lot about this about like while connecting and staying in your routine. If you read every night, try to continue to read every night. If your kid is working on writing, maybe writing some notes to some family members. Oh, it was really great to see you. Draw pictures of things that you have done together. And they can also lead to a lot of communication opportunities. So that is my advice for kind of managing the holidays on the speech and language side. But now I'll give it over to Amy and she will talk about managing the holidays from a mental health perspective.
Thank you, Jen. As Jen mentioned, my name is Amy Weber, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And uh, oftentimes, the Thanksgiving weekend or the Thanksgiving holiday gives us a little taste. It's kind of dipping your toe into the holiday season, and you're starting to feel like, oh, okay, so my kid is still not okay with big gatherings, or my kid is still like this is still kind of a sticky point. So we had planned to do this right before Thanksgiving, but I think actually the timing is good because you've had a little taste of what the holiday season is, and now we can think about this with a fresh perspective about who your kid is this year in this holiday season. So I always like to start with the tenant that regulated, connected kids who feel safe and know what to do behave well. And I say that a million times. I think it a million times a day. I say it a million times a week. And even putting it on a little index card that you keep in your pocket or in your bag to remind yourself that if your kid is not behaving well, whatever that means to you, it's because they do not feel regulated, they don't feel connected, or they don't feel safe, or they don't know what to do. And it might be a combination of those things. It might be two of them. It might be all four of them. It might be one of them. But when kids are not meeting our expectations, they're not behaving in a way that makes us feel really good about them and their behavior, it's because they are not feeling regulated, they're not feeling connected, they don't feel safe, and or they don't know what to do in that moment. So with that in mind, my tips are that we want to really think about protecting kids from sensory overload. And Jen spoke to this a little bit. It is okay to say no. You want to think about who your child is and what they need to be successful. And what they need to be successful might not be found at grandma's house. And it might not be found at grandma's house in 7 days. It might be found at grandma's house in 3 days, but at grandma's house in 7 days, it is not there anymore. And your kid is just not successful. So saying no and declining invitations is okay. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to be able to spend a whole week with extended family. It doesn't mean no to ever traveling for the holidays, but it is thinking about who is my kid, who is my family this year, and what's going to work for us. Are some people going to be disappointed? Are feelings going to be hurt? Yeah, absolutely. And it's not your job to take care or protect people from those feelings. It is okay for another adult to feel disappointed and frustrated that you can't spend as much time as they wish you could. So we want to always have that in mind. Like it's not my job to protect my mom's feelings in this case. I really we want to leave on a high note and I know that we will be leaving with everybody in a giant meltdown if we stay more than 2 days or if we go at all, and it's okay to set those limits and those boundaries. We want to dress comfortably. And this goes as much for the adults as for the kids. It's really tempting. There are so many super cute sweaters and dresses and lacy things to put on and take a cute holiday photo. And those things are so uncomfortable. So, especially to spend an entire day in them. So, really help your kid to maybe that's something you wear for 10 minutes while you get the photo. And then you have backup clothes that are comfortable for you, for your kids, for everybody. Comfortable clothes are key for the holidays. You want to come prepared. As Jen said, she always has a bag of boredom busters. You want to pack a little bag of fidgets. maybe headphones, noise canceling headphones, or even just regular headphones that you can, have them listen to some music or a podcast or an audiobook. Um, some books, some puzzles, snacks, anything that is your kid's favorite, you want to have on hand because anything that is familiar is going to feel really good in a moment of overwhelm. And you want to find an escape hatch. So if you are going to somebody's house, you can talk to extended family or friends about this in advance. You want to ask, where can my kid go if they need a break? Where's a quiet place? Where's a place where nobody is going to really be going in and out? They're not going to be disturbing anybody if they head into that room. And you want to set it up beforehand. Set it up with your extended family member or your friend. You want to set it up with your kid. Go look at the spot. This is it. This is where you can go. It's a little tent, or they made a little fort for you, or it's under this pile of coats on the bed. But you wanna have that set up with everybody in advance so that the kid knows where to go. Not during a meltdown, because then it's too late. You wanna have that all set up in advance. You wanna really think about protecting your child's schedule and routine. So as Jen said, you wanna plan the day. What are the activities that are kind of on the agenda for the day? And then think about what you want to opt into or opt out of, and create a little visual schedule with your child. Talk to them about what they might wanna participate in or skip. You can play out the day using dolls or little action figures if your child is into that, or role playing yourselves. Ask ask the child for feedback about what they definitely want to participate in. So what's your must do that day, and what are you willing to kind of let go? And really plan that with your child as much as they are willing to participate and able to participate. You want to kind of, and this can be hard, stay close to home. Limiting travel or keeping trips short. You can save these long trips and visits for non-holiday times, like over the summer is a great time when there's a lot less pressure. But long trips can be really, really disruptive for kids. It's disruptive for their sleep, it's disruptive for their eating, it's disruptive for your schedule, and it feels like a lot of pressure. So again, thinking about who your kid is and what their needs are and what they need to be successful. Some kids thrive in new environments and they love traveling. And for other kids and families, it is just too much. And that's okay. It doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, but it's the reality of this year and in the place that you are right now. So you want to think about that and respect your child's space. Maybe you are staying close to home and you have a bunch of family coming to visit you. Um, this is not an opportunity or a great time to ask your kid to give up their bedroom. And I know that that's really hard because we live in New York City and there is no extra space to house anybody. But also asking your kid to give up their bed or their bedroom to visiting relatives means that now they're displaced and they are even more out of their routine and have no place. They feel like they have no place to go. So really kind of helping kids, maybe you give up your bedroom and you sleep in the living room, or you bunk with your kid in their bedroom. But I wouldn't ask your kid to give up their space or to necessarily share toys with visiting cousins. That can be another big triggering thing. Beforehand, go through the toys. What do you want to share? What is absolutely, like, you do not want this person to touch it? Let's put those things away. Let's put them up in a closet. You do not have to share those things. There's no expectation of that. We want to make sure everything feels very safe to your child, and sharing can feel a little unsafe sometimes. Sharing space and sharing toys. And we want to help prepare for social interactions. As Jen said, reviewing who will be present and looking at up-to-date pictures, because a lot of times kids just don't see these aunts and uncles and grandparents as often as they would like or you would like. And people's appearances change and your kids' memories of those people change. So looking at Any recent pictures is a really good idea. Outlining any outings and practicing how things might go is a really good way to move through or prepare your child. Picking a code word for when your child might need help and practice using it. Let your child come up with it and then be on alert for listening for that, for that code word. This means my kid needs help. I'm going in. I like to practice the rule of one. Choose one guest who can come over, choose one special outfit, choose one new food rather than overwhelming your child and your family with a bunch of new people and a bunch of new foods and a bunch of new traditions and a bunch of new toys and a bunch of new clothes. And all of that can feel so overwhelming to kids. So, really thinking about, okay, who's one person that we feel comfortable inviting on the day after Christmas for dinner? And I'm going to make sure that there's food that my kid likes and maybe one new food. So, really simplifying and keeping things to one and stay close. And this is hard because these are people that you don't get to see very often. These are your friends and family, and you want to visit with them and catch up with them as well. But your kid really needs you to be close by. And and that spiral can happen super quickly. If you are close by, then you can notice the warning signs and you can move your kid into that safe space or get them out for a little walk or turn things around before things become a full meltdown. We want to really think about staying as close as possible to our kids and watching for that. So, with that said, we can open it up for questions. You can unmute, you can type them in the chat.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Kieran. My little one is 9. One of the things that we do at home and I say we, I'm a single mom, to get food in him because he is not interested in eating. He's not particularly picky, but he just doesn't want to eat, doesn't care about food. Is I let him use screens as a distraction and kind of just use mindless eating, which is terrible as an adult, but is the only way I'm getting calories in him right now. The grandparents hate that. And I've talked about it with them, and I've just said, like, he's not gonna eat if we don't do this. And I bring headphones, it's not disruptive to anyone, but they're in a community, so we're in a dining room. Their friends are looking on and potentially also not approving, which I assume is part of it. Long story long, any tips on what to say because it just doesn't seem to go away as an issue? Thanks.
Yes. So helpful, aren't they?
Oh,
This is so
oh,
helpful to feel judged by your parents and your parents'
whole
friends
community.
in a whole dining room. I would just say to them, look, this is the arrangement that my kid and I have. This is what works for us as a family, and this is I'm comfortable with this right now. If they are not comfortable with it, then maybe the two of you don't go to dinner at the dining room or you don't, whatever it is. But, I would feel very confident in your position as a parent and as a leader of this family that this is this is okay with you and it's I mean, I'm a mental health
Yeah.
person. I'm telling you it's okay. This is a common thing. Many people rely on screens to get food into their kid.
Mm,
There are many ways that you can try to move past that or through it but Christmas is at dinner is not the
yeah.
time
Not,
to do
not the
that.
time.
So so either the choices are that they can accept this and keep their distaste to themselves, or you don't have to go to dinner with them and you can stay back or you can go to a different, like you and your child can make a different arrangement. Um, but I would be really firm with them. Like, you understand that they disapprove. However, it's where you are right now. And this is, these are the two choices that you've come up with. If they have other suggestions that don't include your kid not having screens at a very boring meal while listening to grown-ups talk, you're all ears, but I would step into that confidence and really, like, you're making the right decision for you and your kid. And and ultimately that whole dining room of people, because without that screen, your kid is really
Yeah.
not going to be their best self. So, yeah, I don't know if you have
Yeah.
something to add to that, Jen.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, we can sometimes depending, I mean, and it's hard because we don't know the dynamics of your particular family, but treat them sometimes like we would treat our kids and give them the choice. Mom, dad, what would you prefer? Would you prefer this where he's going to have the screen, or would you prefer that we all go and do something else or go to a restaurant? And sort of putting the ball back in their court a little bit, I think sometimes throws it off the game, right? Well, now, and like Amy said, if you have any other solutions, and that sort of puts the onus on on them, and I know you could probably explain to your blue in the face about why you have to do it, why it doesn't, no is also a complete sentence. You don't, if you've already explained it, it's okay. It's okay, like Amy said, to decline invitations, but I always like to try the choice one first before getting a little more because it just make them feel like they have some control over it also. There's another question in the chat that was from a parent email. What's the best way to handle meltdowns in the middle of a holiday gathering? Ooh, yeah, if you've gotten to that point, my guess would be, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could probably speak to this more, but I think just removing yourself and your child from the situation, not using a lot of language. There's no amount of talking or reasoning or bribing that's going to get you out of that situation. They are already overstimulated. And, I think an important thing to remember is that, behaviors are communication. Your child is communicating something and they are just overwhelmed and they sort of need help. So hopefully you've already done some of the tips and sort of have a little quiet corner or something like that. But yeah, I think just getting yourself and your child out of the situation as soon as possible with as little language as possible. And that might mean picking them up if you can and they're not 9. Yeah. I think once you're there, it's sort of like triage, Amy.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's the moment. Again, there is no amount of punishing, consequences,
Right.
talking, using logic that is going to get you out of a meltdown. You really want to be just offering as much co-regulation as possible. And co-regulation, if you haven't heard that term before, is really sharing your calm and your regulation with your child. So that might mean offering a drink of water. It might mean offering a snack. It might mean taking a walk together. It's anything that you can do to kind of reconnect to your kid and to share your calm. It might mean sitting on the floor of a closet while you rock back and forth together. It might mean listening to some music together. It might be looking at a screen for a little while.
I was just going to
Um,
say that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, screens are nobody's first choice of regulation, but they are a
Yep.
regulation tool. They are a tool. We all have them. If you go to the doctor's office and everybody is anxious and everybody is sitting on their screens scrolling. So it's a tool. It's a tool that we all use. We don't love it. It is what it is. That moment is really about how can I bring regulation? How can I bring calm to my child right now? And whatever that is. And your parents are gonna judge that. Extended relatives might judge, "Oh, in my day, we stood in the corner if I acted that way." "Oh, that's really helpful, Uncle Frank, thanks." Really not going to help anybody calm down. And
Yeah.
and we can delve into Uncle Frank's traumas of his childhood at another time, but the point is really to how can I share my calm with my kid? And some of that is waiting it out. Some of it is really like we're going to sit
Yep.
here for as long as, and it's always going to take longer than you think it should and longer than you want. And it is what it is. It's just it's sometimes the only way through it is through it. So,
Yeah. I think snacks, water. I disagree. I don't hate
fidgets.
screens. I don't. I mean, I have thanked my a lot of times that we've had the available the screens, and I think sometimes we just get too hung up on that, like we shouldn't do, but it's fine. It is totally fine if it is going to help your child calm down and be able to possibly join again. And then once they have calmed down, you can try to talk to them about like what is it that made you overwhelmed, or was it too loud? And kind of do a little digging so that you can sort of reset and try again. And all of this is practice. Like, this is practice for us adults, but it's practice for kids, and it sometimes it takes a little bit more practice for some of our neurodivergent kids, and that's okay. And I think we have to recognize that. And communicate that to, the adults in the room too, that, my child just needs a little bit more practice with that. That's it.
There was another
Okay. And
question
yeah.
about involving children in holiday
Ah,
preparations without overwhelming them.
ooh, that's a good one. I think it depends on what your traditions are. Kids really like decorating, if you celebrate Christmas, they really like decorating the tree. I think the key is to not do too much in one day, right? Like, put up your holiday decorations one day, and then maybe the next day you bake cookies. But I think the key is just one at a time. What is it, Amy? Your rule of one?
Yeah.
One thing that's a holiday per day will help them, sort of, it just slows down the pace a little bit. Be my
Lighting
suggestion.
menorahs is super exciting for kids because there's a fire involved,
Yeah.
and that it feels very like, "Ooh, am I old enough
Ooh,
to do this?" That can feel
yeah.
very exciting for kids. Asking if they wanna help cook, involving them in
Mhm.
that process, but I wouldn't force it. I think it's really like, "What are you interested in doing?" And just keep offering. "I'm gonna bake cookies. Do you wanna help me? I'm gonna bake what do you think what kind of cookies should we bake?" And "I'm gonna decorate the tree. Do you wanna help me? Where should we put this ornament? We're gonna light the menorah. Do you wanna do the first candle or the second candle?" Like, I think anytime you can give some limited choices and offer it, and if your kid says no, then that's okay. It doesn't mean no forever. It means no for this moment. And maybe they will come around in 20 minutes, and maybe they will come around next year, and it'll all be okay. You're gonna get through the holiday, regardless of whether or not they've hung all the ornaments, or they've lit the menorah, or they've participated in, the Feast of the Seven Fishes, or whatever it is. It's one day, it's one little thing in the blip of your whole life, in the blip of their whole lives. So, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I like to do that, helps kids also feel included is, and we do this in our house. I'll let my kids make a list of people that they want to buy gifts for. And we try to tap it out at immediate family and maybe one friend, and then give them some money. And then what we'll do is I will ask, like, do you want to go to Target? Are you feeling up to it? We can go look there, or we can go on the computer and we can do this. And we give them a set amount of money. And then it's super exciting, right? They can come home, they can wrap it, but it also doesn't have to be done all at once, right? We can pick it, and then maybe the next day we can wrap it. But also, I think there's something about the gift of giving, just the process of giving, the process of thinking about someone else and what someone else would like is also, I think, a really great social skill. And it's something that we can really help foster in our kids in this sort of small way. The other questions.
I got an email from a parent this past weekend. The child is 10 years old, but helped peel potatoes for mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. And they were super excited about it.
Mhm.
They were excited to have a part in the meal, and it was something totally safe. It didn't require anything dangerous, cutting or anything like that. So that was positive. So
Lucas did that. He peeled an apple and he thought he was just and talked about it for like an hour. So yeah, even small little things, setting the table is a good one. Depending on where your kids are in terms of feeling comfortable, like socially being the greeter, I think sometimes or having a job, just one job, can sometimes be super exciting, make them feel good. But again, you can limit it and then no expectation. And I think Amy and I were talking about this earlier about like expectations, and the holidays come with a lot of expectations. And I think have no expectations in mind because you can only go up from there. But, I think you can expect your child to behave in ways that they don't typically behave just because this is a different period and there's more people, right? Your child, if your child is averse to certain foods or averse to touch and hugs, like they're not automatically going to start hugging Uncle Frank because yeah, it's just not who they are at that moment in time. And I think, we as parents can't have that expectation. that they're going to behave any differently, or I don't even want to say behave, that they're going to be comfortable with a different sort of interaction that they are just because it's the holiday. It doesn't quite always work like that, even though we think. And I think that's what happens with grandparents and extended family too, right? They think because it's that special time that, our kids can just like go the extra mile. Like, why can't they do that? But they can't. And that's okay. And that is also a short phrase that requires no explanation. They just can't.
And you can email the adults that you're
Mhm.
going to be visiting ahead of time or that are going to come to your house. And you can say, like, I understand that this is what your expectation is. I I can't force my kid to meet that expectation. And this is what we are capable of this year. And just lay it out there so that they have the information that they need and they can start to mentally prepare themselves too. So, yeah, my kid is going to show up at Christmas dinner with an iPad and headphones, and that's how it's going to be. So, we don't have to go to the dining room if that's going to be too stressful for you. But I feel confident in my parenting that this is how I'm choosing to handle this. And I think if you pose it that way, like that this isn't just something that accidentally happened and now you're letting it's a train wreck that you've let go too long. Like this is a conscious parenting decision you are making. I'm making this decision that we can do one activity, but we cannot do 15. I am making a conscious choice that we can stay for 2 days, but we cannot stay for 1 week. And I think,
Mm.
when you approach it that way from a place of like, no, I'm not making this decision out of fear. I'm making it out of like in my thinking brain, in my logic brain, I know that this is the right decision. It's harder for people to argue with you. They
Yeah.
can try, but it's harder to come from that place if you're
Yeah.
coming.
And I think a big one is sitting at the table. I mean, we haven't talked about this, but sitting at the table for a family meal. I mean, come on, if your child, is on the spectrum or has ADHD, they're not sitting there for a meal listening to, what this extended relative that we haven't seen in 20 years is doing. It's just not going to happen. And I think that setting that expectation for yourself and for your kid, I'm like, listen, I know the dinner is really boring. I'm going to set you up in the kitchen. And then if grandma and grandpa have a problem with that, I mean, it is what it is. This is what we're doing. And it's hard. It's sometimes I think, it's hard for us to set limits with our own parents that probably date back to when we were kids. But I think, you're protecting your child and you're protecting yourself. And this is a really different and hard thing to manage. Holidays are hard for even the best of us. So I think the expectation thing and setting the expectations for extended family and letting them know that this is what's going to happen. No, my child is not going to hug you. And my child may not even say hello to you. It is not a personal affront to you. It is just where we are at this point. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us live and for
No.
your questions and for sending in some questions. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
If
And
things occur to you later, don't hesitate to shoot us an email.
absolutely.
We are always happy to do some brainstorming. This is a stressful time of year,
Yeah.
so
I'm putting our email address in the chat. So you have it and we'll get back to you. This webinar will also be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you want to send it to a family members or if you want to send it to your family members and say, this is what the experts told us, we don't have to go to dinner in the dining room. You can hear it from them. Yeah. So, and you can also find us on Instagram. It's Speak, Learn, and Play for Instagram and Facebook also. And you can feel free to reach out to us either in the DMs or post something on the page. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. Well, happy holidays and
happy
good luck.
holidays.
Bye.
Bye.